Hello and welcome to All Right, Now What? I'm your host, Andrea Gunraj, for the Canadian Women's Foundation. Gender equality and justice where we live, work, learn, and play is the goal, and it makes life better for everyone. This podcast is our chance to connect with insightful people and explore what it'll take to get there in Canada. The work of the Canadian Women's Foundation and its partners takes place on traditional First Nations, Métis, and Inuit territories. We are grateful for the opportunity to meet and work on this land. However, we recognize that land acknowledgements are not enough. We need to pursue truth, reconciliation, decolonization, and allyship in an ongoing effort to make right with all our relations.
Let's say you're walking home one night, listening to some casual Beethoven, as one does. If you're a man, there's a good chance you'll hear it just like this. If you're not a man, there's a good chance you'll hear it more like this. Because women and gender diverse people are expected to always keep one ear to the ground to reduce their chances of being attacked. Does that sound right to you? Visit awarepod.com to learn more and help fight gender-based violence.
Today I'm speaking with Fallon Farinacci. Okay, my first question for you. What kind of gender equality change maker are you? You took the quiz. Give me your reactions, your thoughts.
Yes. So I'm the most is a collaborator at 46.15%. And I mean, I'm not really surprised by that because I do think that, like I always say, there is power in numbers. And so unless I'm collaborating, then I'm doing it by myself. And I don't think you can move forward by yourself. Well, you can. I shouldn't say that. I don't think you can't. However, I think you can cover a lot more ground and a lot more work if you are working with others. And together, that's, I think, power in numbers. So
Thanks for that. I do wonder, you are somebody with such a strong voice. And sometimes I think people with strong voices, we tend to be in awe of them, love what they're saying, appreciating and reacting, but we don't realize what life lessons they've learned along the way they brought with them to today. So give me a sense about the core life lessons. If you had to answer that question today, what core life lessons do you bring to growing gender equality and justice in Canada in all that you do?
I guess it is very community based. Being around community, I would say, again, that's probably where that collaborator comes into play, is something I grew up with since I was little, is just the importance of community. And so coming together with community is how we can advance those changes. So I think that's a core value that's been instilled in me since I was young. And I mean, now I can make sense of that a little more. So
I do wonder, you won the Feminist Creator Prize. You're one of three amazing winners. And we saw you at the award ceremony go on stage and share why you do what you do, what this award means to you. Can you share a little bit with us now? Our listeners weren't all able to be there, and it inspired me so much.
I was honored to have been nominated. So to have won, it was a whole other experience. And I was deeply moved by that because I think often in this space, we wonder, is what we're doing or saying, is it making any kind of difference? And do others see that? So just having that being reaffirmed was really nice, and quite emotional as well. So from my own personal experience as a survivor of MMIWG2S+, so for those who don't know, missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, Two-Spirited Plus, I had lost both of my parents at the age of 9, although my mother was non-Indigenous. The work that I've had the opportunity to do with the Canadian Women's Foundation has lent itself to what my mother had to endure as a woman here in this country who had to deal with a stalker. So both my parents had died at the hands of my mother's stalker, but my father was Indigenous. And then in this scenario, you have me who was 9 at the time, and I was displaced from my community, and I had to move from rural Manitoba to St. Catharines, Ontario, because this is where my guardian lived with, and my brothers as well at the time moved here with me. And so it took me years to realize that I was a part of what had happened to my parents, and to realize only at the closing ceremony. So I was a part of the national inquiry. I had testified, and then I was a part of the National Family Advisory Circle. And it was not until the closing ceremonies when we handed over the final report and the 231 calls for justice, which, by the way, are still not being answered. And so it was there that I realized, oh, I was the girl. I was this perfect, odd package for a simulation. That I was removed from my community. I lived here in St. Catharines. And while, yes, there is an Indigenous community, it's much different than, your home community with around your Indigenous, I guess I don't want to say relatives, like my community members from my the place that I had grown up in. And so it was there that I had realized that there was a disconnect. Although I'm very privileged, I acknowledge that. And then I also acknowledge that I'm privileged in the sense that I have a community to still call home when there are so many Indigenous people who have been removed from their communities and or don't even know where they come from. And so, I had lost some of those tradition and cultures or access to it. And then also language. I mean, the language aspect, though, stems back to my father and my grandfather, unfortunately, as well. And so, anyway, to say all that, I had realized only as an adult that I was the girl in that situation, of MMIWG2S+. And so it was then that I really started wanting to bring awareness. And after hearing from other family members and survivors, and two of which were almost identical stories to my own. So I realized at that point I wasn't alone in what I had gone through in my lifetime. So from there, I wanted to continue down and raise awareness. And what that looked like, I wasn't sure at the time, but just using my voice was something I could do. And so, yeah, that's kind of where it started for me.
Thank you for sharing that, Fallon. What always hits me when I hear this, what I take away from this is this idea that you can come to different realizations of who you are and what your purpose is in the world all along the way from 2 years old to 90 years old. You can find new purpose, new positioning. You can see what you're meant to do, and you're meant to do different things at different times. And for me, I have a question then. What is your passion today, if you had to answer that? Your passion for gender equality, where would you seat that in what your life is like now and where your work sits now?
I mean, I knew this the whole time, and I'll get to what I'm talking about. But my husband has obviously journeyed through with me for the inquiry and, the honor of sitting on different committees and getting together at gatherings and advocacy work. And one thing for him that he always points out is he always says that the room of those survivors and family members is all the people in there are filled with so much love and the kindness. My work is really centered, I feel like, about people understanding that all of us, we are just human beings. And if we could just see one another that way, I feel as though, like, I really do. I think that would bring world peace. That would, like, oh, I'm getting emotional thinking about it. Because at the end, we're all made equal. So I think if we could just all see that and understand that, and to hear him feel that way and get moved every time, because we're talking about really heavy, difficult topics, right? And we're together to talk about MMIW and people going missing and having been murdered, and it's based off of how they look or where they come from, and of course, gender as well. Or yeah, it's just so, for me, I think, where I'm at in my work is, and I'm not surprised that if I look at my test, my result, that I'm only a 7.69 for a challenger on there. And I think that that's because I mean, hey, I wish I had that, like, in your face, I'm gonna just, like, challenge this, and I think I do. I just think it's done in a much different way, and now that I'm realizing what's coming up for me as I get emotional, again, I think that kinda makes sense, because I know that there's so much work, so I don't wanna take away from the work that has to get done and the work that has been done so far, to say, like, I wanna just simplify it and make it, like, so that people understand. But I really do think if we could just get to the root of understanding, it's not a lot that we're all asking for in this space of gender equality, right?
Fallon, you got me emotional here now too. You got me thinking that such an important part of your work is helping us see humanity in ourselves and humanity in other people. That's one thing that sexism and racism and all the isms, all the oppressions actually take away from us. The ability to see ourselves as human and see one another as human, including those who might be doing the oppression and including us who internalize that oppression. This is all human stuff. And what a gift it is that you bring to people to help us see humanity in one another. These things rob that from us. To do it is a challenge, is a form of challenging. It's a different kind of challenging than speaking truth to power. It's speaking humanity to power. And that's why I love what you bring. And I just appreciate and thank you for that.
Thank you so much. And I don't know, I feel like I always acknowledge my privilege as being white passing as well. And if anyone's listened to other interviews that I've done, podcast interviews, I will be sure to say at the end, would you have listened if I, like, had looked differently? If I appeared to be different, or if I had come from even a different background, and would you have listened? And I'm so happy I said that, because I really was, you get in your head after interviews and you think, oh, is that the right thing to say? But I had so many people message me and acknowledge themselves, which was like, took my breath away, that they don't think that they would have listened, and thanked me for putting that in front of them, to confront that about themselves and their own thoughts and their own biases. And so, yeah, I'm at a 7%, but I think I do it in a different way. And hopefully, that is bringing some change too.
What a gentle challenge, gentle, important challenge, pushing us, encouraging us to pay attention and listen in ways that we haven't been pushed and we desperately need in 2025. So please leave our listeners with something that they can take from you, all your experience, all your work, all the things that you've gone through, all the things that you're doing now, a powerful takeaway that we can bring forward in our lives so we can become better gender equality change makers in Canada, as big or as small and specific as it's going to be.
I feel like I could say so many different things. I am going to say I question this for those who were not at the gathering. I knew right away what I wanted to say it for our last answer, because it is quite often something that I will end my talks in. This powerful little piece does not come from me. This is from an elder who had said it to a group of us one time. And I think that it's something you can bring into your everyday, in your meetings, in your family discussions, around the kitchen table, because that's where change will begin and happen. And you could have it with some friends when you're just sitting and you need that, like, I don't know, I think there's a lot of power and perspective if we can just take a moment and have just a little bit to sit with. And this elder said, you can't unhear what we've shared with you. And I'm going to say we because you're going to be listening to the other two winners as well. So you cannot unhear what you've heard from us. So what will you do with it now? Are you going to just let this just go through you? And if you are, then you're probably not actually in the space that we all are in this work. And if it's discussions with your friends, your family, your coworkers, and there's powerful things that are being talked about, challenged, and you're listening and you're just like, okay, I'm just going to move on. It's like more of what can you do with it now? And it's giving that, and now what are you going to do, right? So now that you've heard what we've had to say, what will you do with it now? I think there's just so much power. It is not my knowledge. This is from an elder. I'm just loaning it for a little bit because I think it is so powerful.
And we will borrow it because we need to hear that. So I appreciate it. All right, now what? If you want to make sure no woman, girl, two-spirit, trans, or non-binary person feels out of options, out of sight, out of time, or out of mind, visit yescountmein.ca. When you count yourself in, you'll join over 104,000 people in the Canadian Women's Foundation's community. You'll get tools and opportunities to advance gender equality. This movement needs you. Visit yescountmein.ca and count yourself in today. Please listen, subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. If you appreciate this content, please consider becoming a donor to the Canadian Women's Foundation. People like you will make the goal of gender equality a reality. Visit CanadianWomen.org to give today, and thank you for your support.